now we've had the PL glue is dried and the transom's in here, but it's raw. So it means I still have my stringers gone. Nothing's, it's all cut out. As you go back in the thread and look at some of the pictures, you'll see that. So what I did is I took the transom, glued it in, and then I got pieces of CSM or chopped strand mat, which I'll show that to you. Here's the nasty stuff right here. This is chopped strand mat, and I got the heavy duty kind from West Marine. It's pretty darn thick. But what I did is I cut those into about 8-inch wide squares or strips that were long enough to go on the back of this to attach it to the tunnel. And then I took a big bucket of, imagine this being a quart-sized jar of resin, and I would put the whole thing in there, soak it, and then bring it out. And then I would just go on the back side and I'd push it on there real good. And then I'd use my roller and my paint brushes to mash out all the air bubbles. Now, I don't know if I got every single one of them, but I got pretty darn close. I'm throwing this stuff out of the boat. This is nasty. Stuff gets everywhere, you can see. It's just, it gets in your clothes, it gets all over the place. So I did 4 layers of that, side, top, bottom, going, back towards the back of the boat. You can kind of see some of that all the way around. So once that was done, I let that set up for a while, and then I came back for another layup. And this is 24-ounce woven. I did a layer of 24-ounce woven on the transom from floor to bottom. But before I did that, I actually tabbed in the floor to, or actually the hull of the boat down here, I tabbed it in with 1708 CS biaxial. And that stuff, if you can find it, is the best stuff to work with when you're working around corners. Because what it does is it conforms to the corners much better than any of the other stuff. I wasted a lot of that 24-ounce because I thought I was going to be able to do that right here, and it just wouldn't lay down. It was just an absolute nightmare. So I ran the biax all the way across, and by then I had PL glued in a stringer right here, which I used 1x6 pine that I cut an inch off of to make it 1x5, which is what this called for. And it was glued into place. I ran the 1708 over, down, and across 2 layers. So 2 layers over that, 2 layers up there on either side, all the way across, up and over. So once I'd let that completely dry and that 1 layer of the 24-ounce woven, I came back and I drilled 2 holes right here on either side, and I put PVC pipe in it. Now what that does is that allows for any water that gets trapped back here, God forbid, that it will flow out into the bilge area and be able to get pumped out of the boat, or just dry up. So that way I have complete, also allows air to get in there to kind of help dry the backside. Okay, once I had those installed, I came back over with another layer of that 6-ounce woven, which is that lightweight stuff, over the whole thing. And then I put a layer of chopped strand mat over this, and another layer of chopped strand over this, and over each side. So it kind of finished it all out. This also covered my 2 patches that were on either side here, to strengthen them up and make sure that they're not going to go anywhere. That was also what was kind of surprising, was 3/4 inch. Whereas most of the decks I've been reading about are all 1/2 inch. This whole boat is 3/4 inch ply. Okay, so the transom's pretty much finished. I had all the stuff on it, and also around the stringers and the floor patch. So that brings me to my ski ladder mounts. Those are basically 2x4s cut to fit. And then I PL glued them to the hull and screwed them from the back side to hold them against the hull through the ski ladder screws, or screw holes. And then I took just 1 layer of chopped strand mat soaked in resin and wrapped around the outside. It doesn't look like it has to be too terribly, it isn't like it's below water line or anything like that. So they set up nicely. it's going to be good. I'll actually use that that 3M 5200 to seal up the holes when I put the screws back in. Okay, so we've pretty much covered everything up to the point of drilling the holes through the hull for mounting the gimbal bearing. I'm losing my mind. It's getting late. And also for the bilge strain. That was probably the most nervous thing after I'd spent all those hours and all that time prepping this thing and getting it perfect, was getting the holes drilled at a perfect 90-degree angle to the back of the hole. You know, of course, the back of the hole looks like this, and trying to get the drill to go perfectly into the hole is just extremely difficult. So I found somebody else's post, and I would show it to you, but I've thrown it away since then because I stepped on it and broke it. But I built a little jig that basically holds the drill to where when you push in, it keeps it at a 90-degree angle to the hull. If you look through my thread, you'll see the kind of contraption that I used to make it. That way, I drilled the holes, and I used 1/2 inch, and I kind of pushed it in and out, and then I also test fitted the gimbal bearing to make sure that the gimbal housing and this transom plate to make sure that it fit nicely. It did. Everything was perfect. I yanked it out, and then I resealed with resin around every edge of this, in and out. In the holes, I used pipe cleaners and pushed that stuff down in the holes and cleaned it up nicely. Let it set up. Came back here and put down a layer of bilge coat, which you guys have seen, and did the outside of the engine bay with the Rust-Oleum. And that's kind of where we sit. This is done. It's ready for the engine to go back in. I'm waiting for my Duraback to come in. Oh, and the deck was pretty simple. All I did was put down, I forget how many, it's been a while now, a bunch of layers of glass and resin, so that way I could go back over it with a belt sander and completely level it out. Yes, I know there's some shiny looking spots, but those aren't. That's like little dark spots. They're actually there. What you're seeing is the light spots are actually some of the, a layer of woven that you're actually seeing. And I talked to the Duraback guy today, and he said that that actually is really good for the tooth for that Duraback to grab hold of. And he acted like he'd never heard of any problems with Duraback, as with anybody would. When I mentioned some of the issues some of the guys were having, he said, no, we do it in military applications all the time and never have any problems. So, but anyway, I think that'll kind of get you guys up to the point of where I am now. Hope this was informative. I know that I would have loved to have video when I first started doing this, but I figured it's time for somebody to make one. So here it is. If you like it, you like it. If you don't, you don't.